Hi everybody and welcome back to this next session with Judith. Really pleased to be able to hear from her again today and hear her full story. I'll come back on at the end for any questions that have come in, and also just to explain a bit about how to access recordings, what we're going to do about Claudia's session, and also how the day is going to look for the rest of the day, and also that all important feedback survey. So without further ado, Judith, I'm going to hand over to you for your talk. So you can start whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you, Georgia. Good morning, everybody. How are you? I hope you're having a really great morning. My name is Judith Denton, and today I'll be sharing my story with you based on mental health, my care experience. Now, before I go into sharing my story, if there's anything I say that is triggering, please feel free to step out of the virtual room, take a minute and then come back in and rejoin the conversation. I just wanted to let you know that before we start. So I will proceed. So I'll be talking about mental health, my care experience journey. So where do I start? I've also got my notes here, so I'll be looking down from time to time, so please bear with me. So at the age of 9, I was placed in foster care, separated from my mum and my dad and my older brother. My older brother was placed with different foster carers. Whilst I was in care, I experienced various challenges such as exclusions from school and college, run-ins with the law, and when I became a care leaver, I experienced a crisis which led to a period of poor mental health. However, with the positive seeds planted in my life by my foster carers and watered by the right support from my mentors, I'm now the founding CEO at an organisation called the Transform You. There we provide intervention and support mentoring programs to transform the lives and raise the aspirations of children and young people in care and care leavers who have behavioural, emotional and social difficulties. I'm also the chair at the Black Care Experience. We work with a team of care experienced people to bring together the stories of Black care leavers and those who are Black and in care to help improve the care experiences of the next Black and in care generation. I also sit on a few various fostering panels. I'm an ambassador and advisory group member influencing national policies and practices to improve England's children's social care system. I'm also a self-published author of my autobiography, Foster Care and Me, where I openly detail my experience of being in care. And I'm a speaker sharing my story with audiences to inspire hope and change. Now, that was my introduction. Let me share with you my story in a bit more detail. Growing up, I remember I lived at number 16 on a particular road in Bristol. It was, I recall, my first family home. I had some fun times there, but there were also some not so fun times. The family home broke down for various reasons and challenges, which I'm choosing not to share today. And so at the age of 9, I was placed with my foster carers at a number 140 on another particular road in Bristol. Now, whilst many would say that mental health difficulties of the care experience begin before coming into care, I'd like to focus on how through entering the system, these difficulties began to unfold in my care journey and on into becoming a care leaver. Now, I often hear the word crisis being said in children's social care departments. And so looking it up, I understand that another word for crisis is distress, which means having extreme anxiety, sorrow, or pain. Now, let's unpack this and see how it relates to my care journey. Distress point, stage 1. Entering into care, I felt separated from my family and abandoned. I felt rejected, unwanted, and unloved by my parents. This impacted on my state of mind and emotional well-being, affecting the way I thought about my life, the things I did in terms of how I behaved, and the things I would say. I felt sad and unhappy and unsure of who to trust, and I was depressed. Now, my friends would say I'm lively by nature, but there were times when I'd become withdrawn and quiet and just get on with this life. I also remember there were times when I would cry myself to sleep. I don't ever recall being asked how I was or how I felt in relation to being in care. And even if I was asked, I'm not sure I'd know how to answer. And so the distress I was experiencing was hidden and undetected. Now, please don't get me wrong. Please understand that I felt loved and accepted and cared for by my foster carers. But the loss I felt of not being with my biological family, it ran deep. Distress point, stage 2. I became a care leaver at the age of 26 because my foster carers were happy for me to remain living with them beyond the age of 18. This meant that I didn't have a social worker to help guide my steps out of care. And so having my own place to call my home came with a price. I had no job and no furniture. My rent was initially paid for through housing benefit, and I claimed job seekers allowance. But the money I received wasn't enough for me to live on, or pay my bills, or make my place look pleasant and feel like home. However, I eventually found a job, but the reality of having tax and national insurance deducted left me short of money each month. Burying my head in the sand, I purchased furniture by way of credit agreements and loans and looked for another way of employment to make sure the repayments were made on time. But the financial burden became too much for me. I felt stressed, anxious, and alone. And like a domino effect in dark times, the feeling of separation, abandonment, rejection, and not being wanted and unloved, they resurfaced. I felt the heaviness of sadness, unhappiness, and depression. I also felt disappointed and let down and unsure of who to trust. This all was too much for me to carry, severely impacting on my state of mind and my emotional well-being. I was in distress, a state of emergency, and so I was hospitalized for my own safety and for my healing and recovery. Now, before I go into the details of my recovery, I must say that my journey into hospital, to staying in hospital, to being discharged from hospital lasted for 2 weeks. And this was without any form of medication. Out of hospital, a close family friend recommended that I should engage in therapy. Unsure of what this would entail, but wanting to feel better, I agreed. I met 2 therapists. The first one I really couldn't relate to. But the second one, I would say, was God's gift to me. I engaged wholeheartedly in talking therapy because I also wanted to know what had happened to me and why. Connecting the dots over a period of 12 months, I learned that I had carried the painful feelings of rejection, hurt, and anger, and the thoughts of being unloved from the age of 9 into my late 20s. During that period of time, I had masked those thoughts and feelings by subconsciously acting as if I was okay, believing I was okay, and that what I had been through was absolutely normal. Sadly, because I had ignored these thoughts and feelings, they began to snowball and enlarge with every disappointment that felt like the rejection and hurt I felt in my childhood. But I was focused on surviving, and I had not been taught to talk about how I felt. Unaware of these signs, my emotions suddenly began to shut down under this emotional stress and heaviness, as I could no longer take any more and had become severely depressed. That's what I learned through therapy. As part of my recovery, I traveled to the United States and to Germany to talk to my parents about how I felt about being in care. Understandably, it was hard for them to hear, but we managed to get through this difficult conversation with forgiveness and hope of rebuilding our relationship from that point onwards. Breaking this silence, facing the truth, unpacking every emotion, and laying the pain of the past to rest helped me to heal and reconnect with my faith in a new way. This therapeutic process transformed my mindset, my expressions, and ultimately my lifestyle. I adopted a healthy lifestyle by eating healthily, exercising, going for walks, learning how to relax and rest and get enough sleep. I also found my village of genuine supporters, some of whom became my mentors. My village of genuine supporters consisted of people I could ask for help and be open to receiving their help. As I said, some of them became my mentors who nurtured me to explore my vision and goals I had for my future. And they also empowered me to see that I have a purpose and great potential, which ignited within me a passion to achieve, which leads me on to the work I now do. In 2013, I founded and set up a social enterprise called the Transformed You, working in a joined-up way with the commissioning local authorities. There we provide intervention and support mentoring programs to transform the lives and raise the aspirations of children and young people in care and care leavers who are identified as having behaviour and emotional social difficulties. We work in particular with those children and young people who are in mainstream education and at risk of exclusion, those placed at a pupil referral unit, those placed at an alternative provision, and those who are not in employment, education, or training. Now, I could go on to talk about the programs and how they work, but instead, I'd like to focus on the 2014 Recenter research findings that states, looked after children and young people have continuously been found to have much higher rates of mental health difficulties than the general population. With that in mind, I know that local authorities care for the mental health of the care experienced through the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service, which we call CAMS. But it can be difficult to get an appointment and treatment because the waiting list can be very long, which does not help the child or young person who is in distress and in urgent need. I also note that the child or young person's symptoms may not meet the referral threshold for CAMS, as well as the child or young person being able to say that the CAMS practitioner is not the right person for them. So where do we go from here? At the Transformed You, we have a directory of a team of therapeutic support. They're qualified with different specialisms to meet the identified needs of our mentees. Here, the whole Transformed You package helps to improve the outcomes and life chances of the care experience. Reflecting on my care journey to now supporting the care experienced, I do believe that children's social care should put measures in place to care for and protect the mental health of the care experienced from the outset of entering the care system. This, I believe, would prevent a stacking of distress points as we grow through the system, and I'll explain what I mean. A young person enters the system. They're placed in an emergency placement. They feel separated, alone, rejected, and abandoned. This is what I call distress point stage 1. Then they're moved to their foster carer. Thoughts of, who are you? Are you going to look after me? Will I be safe here? When will I see my family? How long am I to be here for? Is what I call distress point stage 2. Then the young person moves to a new mainstream school, experiencing distress point stage 3. They're finding it hard to make friends, finding it hard to stay focused in lessons, and the behavior does not meet the school's behavioral policy, and they're subsequently excluded. Then they're placed in a pupil referral unit. Some of my mentees call this mini prison. They feel vulnerable. They act tough to be taken seriously by the other pupils in the pecking order. Here, they're experiencing distress point stage 4. Now, these untreated distress points are having an impact on the foster care placement. And so the young person is then moved onto residential children's care home, experiencing distress point stage 5. They're out of borough, they're in unfamiliar surroundings, and they feel misunderstood. But they stay there for as long as they need to until it's time for them to be placed in semi-independence. Here they feel alone. again experiencing another distress point, stage 6. They stay in semi-independence until they become a care leaver. Here they're having to figure out how to make it in life and who do they trust. This is distress point stage 7. These stacked distress points left untreated affects our state of mind, impacting on our responses and our reactions. It impacts on the choices we make and blindsides our true aspirations, causing us to survive and not thrive. Here I can say that I do find that social care are often reactive in treating distress points, putting mental health services in place when they see or hear that the child or young person is at risk. Whilst I understand this way forward, I would ask social care to also consider those in care whose distress points, like myself, are hidden and undetected. And I advocate for social care to proactively address this area in its entirety in order to level up the mental health care for all. In closing, at the end of every interview, Oprah Winfrey always asks her guests this question: what do you know for sure? I answer based on what I have shared with you today. I know for sure that every care experience is different. I know for sure that distress points are real and manifest in the lives of the care experienced in different ways. I also know for sure that social care must be proactive in how they care for the mental health of all care experienced. And I know for sure that this must be done with a variety of therapeutic specialists to treat the individual and specific needs of the care experienced. This, I know, will surely help to secure the best outcomes and life chances for all. Thank you for listening. My name is Judith Denton, and I'm open to receiving any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judith. First of all, I just want to say, how inspiring that talk was. And, I'm just echoing the words that have come in from the attendees. So incredible, really powerful, so relatable. And you've been so brave to tell your story and you've become an incredible role model. I think you touched on some reflections that we've heard across the conference so far. And so brilliant and lovely to hear from you. We do have questions. And let me just quickly navigate. I was just having a look at the comments that were coming in. Martin has asked, do you think these distress points can be misinterpreted by others?
Yes, completely. Because I find that social care, they focus on the behavior and they just want to put a plaster over the behavior rather than trying to sit down with the young person or the child to find out the root cause of where the behavior comes from. And that's what I try to do through my service at the Transformed You. I try to educate the social care sector to say, hey, please don't look at the behavior. There's something going on there, and I'll be able to help you find it out. So yeah, that's agreed. Yeah, I agree with what Martin has said.
Yeah, definitely. And Victoria has said, we support care leavers in semi-independent living. The move-in process can feel so overwhelming as there's a lot of paperwork we need to complete, and it's clearly a time of huge transition for the young person, and at distress point stage 6, as you've mentioned. What advice do you have about how we can make this process less overwhelming and an opportunity to show the young person that these new professionals in their life do care and can be trusted?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. One of my mentees is in residential care at the moment, and it's new to her, and it's very, very distressing. So what I've advised the residential care team to do is just try and get to know her. Take away get to know her as the individual, see the young person as who they are. Try not to read all the paperwork, just try to get to know the young person and build a positive attachment. Try to build a positive attachment with the young person, and just humanize it, because I feel that social care sometimes dehumanizes young people when they come into the system. So take away all the paperwork kind of element in terms of working with the young person, and just get to know them and build that connection with them, and that will help them to de-stress and be able to talk to you about what it is they're really feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was talked about yesterday. You know, if you start with that relationship and that's an honest and authentic relationship, then obviously, you know, you're going to have much better progress than if you, like you said, you've read the notes and it becomes a bit of a, you know, you've already sort of got that barrier. If anyone does have any more sort of last minute questions they would like to add, please do pop them in the Q&A. But for now, I don't know, Judith, if you can see the chat that's come in and all of the lovely comments. But, you know, I think people have really enjoyed the talk and we've loved having you on the programme this morning, both on the panel and obviously the talk just now. So unless you have any final, a question's just come in. Yeah, someone's just said relationships are so key for helping children in care. And you know, I'm sure you'll agree. But unless you have any final reflections, Judith.
No, I'm just reading through the chats now. I hadn't noticed it because Georgia, you've guided us not to look at the chat.
Yeah,
so I haven't even noticed it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Naomi, Alison. I'll just shout out a few names that I've seen here. Tanya, Faithful, Jackie Davidson. Oh wow. Can I have a printout of this, Georgia?
Yeah, certainly. I'll make
of the
sure
comments.
You can
this is really good.
You know, see the lovely things that people have said, because you know, hopefully it reassures you that what you're doing, not that you would need it necessarily, but obviously that what you're doing is having a positive impact on the people who are listening to your story. Bridget said, have you seen any examples of proactive support in what you do?
Yes. Not all social care are work, you know, late, if that's what I want for a better phrase. I have seen where it's worked great, and I always try to get social care to follow that kind of template. It just depends. It's a postcode lottery. It's really sad, but social care can be a postcode lottery depending on what local authority you're with, who the social worker is, who their manager is, what foster carer you get. It really is a postcode lottery. So I try to influence as much as I can based on the good templates that I see through the work that I do. I'm able to be joined up to do. But yeah, there are some good examples that just aren't enough.
Yeah, no, certainly. I'm sure that is the case. And I just saw another question, although I think someone's upvoted it, so it's gone to the top. Dean has said, why do you think that you know, one might build a good rapport with one therapist but not another? Because I know you said that earlier on that, you know, you spoke to two therapists and you got on with one and perhaps not the other. You know, is it to do with that person's training, or do you think that's just a natural chemistry between two people?
It all boils down to the natural chemistry. Yeah, because I read countless blogs from therapists who say, you know, you have to have that right connection with the therapist in order to make your therapy successful. And therapists themselves say, if we're not the right person for you, keep looking until you find the right person. So if the therapeutic industry is saying, you know, or sector are saying, look, keep looking until the connection is right, I think the children that we work with, they need to have that kind of variety as well. Sometimes I feel social care say, it sometimes becomes a target when you go to a child in care review. So and so, the target is for so and so to sit with this therapist, and the child's like, well, I don't like that person, and then they think that the child is being so resistant to the process, but they're not. They're just saying, I will, but I just don't think that this person's right. And so then I have to then turn around and try and convince social care, look, if adults can have a choice, let's give the kids a choice if we really want them to grow through this system.
Yeah, certainly. And
so yeah, it all boils down to connected to someone in order to engage.
Yeah, I can really
Georgia.
imagine that if you know, if that connection's not right, you know, that young person could feel that it's them. That's the problem. But like you said, adults would have a choice. If they didn't get on with someone, they would just sort of, you know, go to somebody else. So I think that's really important, and it's not necessarily a negative on the child or the social care worker. You know, you just need to make sure that you're starting on the right foot. really great. You'll see that there's more comments coming in.
I can see them coming in. Wow.
Alison has said, I don't know if she can get in touch, if you'd be able to speak to one of her pupils in care for a conversation or some signposting for them. Obviously, Alison, you can get in touch on the website, via the website, thetransformedu.uk. That would probably be the best bet. But I'm sure, Judith, you'd be happy to sort of help. Fantastic. Yeah, brilliant session. Really, really useful tips, as well as, an amazing story. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. It is still the morning. I can't believe it's the morning.
Yeah.
I do this in the afternoon. Feels weird. My head's all wrong. But yeah, thank you so much, Judith. And we will leave it there for this session. But hopefully, definitely, see you again at a future event.
Definitely. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
And I'll make sure to get those nice comments to you so you can read them.
Yes, please. Yes, please. It's always it's always good to be encouraged. It helps. It helps. Let me know that I'm on the right track.
Yeah, definitely. Lovely. Thank you so much. Great. So I'm just going to quickly, explain the bits I said I would about how to access the handouts. What's coming up for the rest of the day, and things like that. So let me just get that information for you. We do have a short break for the next 9 minutes before the start of the next talk. And I'm just going to quickly post a link to the survey in the chat, which should have been emailed to you. So you're welcome to make a start on that. And let me just quickly get the slides up to show you how to access those recordings, because I know I've said it lots and lots of times yesterday. But I know some people weren't here yesterday, so let me just get those notes up for you, as well as posting that link in the handouts tab to that survey. Whoop, I'm just doing that the wrong way around. There we go. There we go. That is now pinned to the handouts tab. Let me then just get the slides to show you how to access those all-important handouts and recordings. Just a reminder that the recordings and handouts aren't going to be emailed to you. You can just come back to the homepage at any point in the next 3 months to watch these sessions back. Simply click on the relevant tile for the session you want to see. On the right-hand side, I've shown you what the video player looks like when you get to that landing page. And then I've zoomed in on that, and you can see that where I've indicated is where you'll find the handouts. And that'll be any handouts that were shared, and also any other documents, sort of the slides and things like that were shared. I think we have had handouts for every session, but if there aren't any, if the button's not there, it does mean that there weren't any handouts shared. So we will be starting at 11:50 the next talk on time. Take this moment to have a quick break, because I know there's been a lot of content already this morning. Equally, feel free to ask me any questions in the chat, sort of about the conference itself. If you have any questions, I can definitely take this moment to help you out. But yeah, definitely be speaking to Judith later, because that was such a fantastic talk. So I will be coming back on just before 11:50 to do the redirect. So for now, yeah, just take a few moments reflection, or continue that conversation in the chat, or take a moment to start that feedback survey.